Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan, Rahayu, Namaste. Greeting of peace. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Hamdan wa syukran lillahi amma ba'du. Dear my beloved audience, friends of Institute DIAN Interfidei, thank you so much for your participation in this meeting. My name is Ida, staff in Interfidei. I'm not alone here because I have a friend, Kak Dian from Kupang, will accompany me to host this meeting. Hello, Kak Dian. Are you there?
Hello.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone.
Yeah. So this webinar is the third of serial webinar of 30th anniversary of Institute DIAN Interfidei. Our theme tonight is sharing experiences and reflections with friends of Interfidei in Asia Pacific Network. What are some valuable lessons in facing and responding to the present, leading to a shared positive future for peace in the world? So I would like to announce a little bit technical rules through this webinar. First, please mute your microphone so we can get clear voices from the speakers and moderator tonight. And second, if you are need Indonesian or English translation, please click the globe on your screen or your phone and choose your language. Third, if you have any argument or questions through this discussion, please write into the chat room. Okay, I will pass the next session to Kak Dian. Kak Dian, please.
Okay, thank you, Kak Ida.
It's yours. Yeah, thank you.
Good evening, good morning, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be in one square with all of you. My name is Dian Pisan from Kupang, Indonesia. My brothers and sisters, working together in peace movement is very important and necessary for us in our daily life as a society, both at the local, national, regional, and global levels. We always see how conflict easily takes the form of violence, which in turn causes suffering and humanitarian catastrophe. Starting from the question of prejudice, stereotypes, truth claims to the question of injustice and untruth in social, cultural, economic, and political dynamics in society and nations. We believe that a collaborative movement for peace can prevent, deal with, overcome, and even transform conflict into a new mutually reinforcing life together. The Institute DIAN consider it's very important to provide a space for some of our friends who are in several countries in Asia Pacific, share about their experiences and work for the peace movement on why networking is important. Tonight we will hear sharing experiences from our resource person in the talk show, but before we jump to the heart of the session tonight, I will give you a quick picture of what we will go through in the session tonight. So we will start with an opening prayer and then we sing the national anthem. Opening remark will be spoke by Father Cardinal and then the talk show. And we will also have a closing statement from the moderator after the talk show. Also the closing remark from Reverend Sakarianielo. But it's we will totally end the whole session after we take picture together at the end of the session before we say goodbye to one another. So I invite you all to be in the silent moment, and because we will be in the a prayer, and the prayer will be led by Mr. Iswang Sual, a local believer of Minahasa. Mr. Sual, the floor is yours. Uh, Mr. Iswang Sual. Okay.
He is here, but his technical, his microphone is off.
Oh, okay.
Kak Isvan, volume ininya apakah oke? Sorry, technical problem.
Let's go.
Hello.
Yeah,
Okay.
good.
Can you guys hear me? Hello.
Yes.
Hello, Mr. Iswang Sual.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Okay,
apo sini memang intana. Can you guys hear me? Hello.
Iya Kak, dengar.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, apo sini memang intana olawa. Ilampalampangangi kami asilalang karondoran. Cam iwaya-waya asilalang kaengkolan. Icopusi kami. Weangi keter. Woowak sama susu inando. Emang kami memuali tou. Uma tou. Uma kopus tase kakele tou. Ampak pak. Ia kami masuat peleng mapute ke uwaya. Tou ke. Emangi kami mama paluseng. Wo mamantombolang manguning kayu baang. Sini ema iapo. Woki i kami rokna mamangkopusang. Mandi kami membalinaang. Ipaka keterangi waya sewangko. Seto naas wo sewalian. Ambanuami wo pakasa sepakikiteng ang kayo baang. Malur wolumuor indoong wo imbanua. Itaya-tayangangi ang sandintana se lewo-lewo o se sakit-sakit. Ter-terangi kami. Kelu-kelungi kami. Kasale wong kaaruyon ke ang katawanami susu induk tu. Ipakakama-kamangi ipakatuan o ipakaluwi dengi kami. O wailan kasuruang siapo ni mema. Tembong olingangi kami si mangila-ngila. Royor lekep. Apo Tuhan yang menciptakan semesta, berikanlah kami melangkah di jalan yang lurus, yang penuh kebenaran. Janganlah kiranya biarkan kami menapakkan kaki di jalan yang bengkok, penuh kebohongan. Kasihanilah kami, berikanlah kami kekuatan, tubuh yang sehat setiap hari. Buatlah kami berlaku sebagaimana manusia harus berlaku, dan mencintai sesama manusia, sebab kami semua sama saja, hanya manusia. Buatlah kami bekerja sama dan saling menopang membangun dunia ciptaan Apo ini, sehingga kami saling menyayangi meski beragam latar belakang. Kuat-kuatkanlah para pemimpin, orang berhikmat, rohaniwan di negara kami, dan semuanya di dunia untuk menata serta memperbaiki negeri kami dan dunia ini. Jauh-jauhkanlah semua yang jahat dan segala kesialan. Jaga-jagalah kami, lindungilah kami. Kiranya kebahagiaan dan kedamaian ada dalam hidup kami setiap waktu. Berkatilah kami berlimpah-limpah, panjangkan umur dan lanjutkan usia. Ya yang maha kaya, sumber segala benih, pencipta semesta. Lihat dan dengarlah kiranya kami yang meminta. Ya baguslah. Selesai.
Thank you, Mr. Iswanswal, for such a very deep prayer. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I invite you all to singing together the national anthem Indonesia Raya. Kak Ida, please.
Kita boleh berdiri. Can we stand? May we stand together to sing?
Okay. Thank you, Kaida, and all please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, we all know this webinar series is the third one to celebrate the 30th anniversary of Interfidei. So let's we will hear an opening remark from Father Kardinal Suharyo on behalf of Interfidei. Father Kardinal Suharyo is a member of the Development Board for DIAN Institute. So, Father Kardinal Suharyo, the floor is yours.
Terima kasih, Mbak. Saya berbicara di dalam bahasa Indonesia.
I will talk in bahasa Indonesia.
Pertama-tama, marilah kita bersyukur karena kita boleh mensyukuri ulang tahun yang ke-30 DIAN Interfidei. Saya pribadi sangat bersyukur karena boleh ikut di dalam webinar ini yang diikuti oleh para sahabat yang sungguh-sungguh saya pikir, saya yakin terlibat di dalam usaha di dalam interfaith dialogue dimanapun kita berada.
Interfidei everywhere we are now.
Tema yang kita angkat adalah religion and being religious for peace.
That we have is religion and being religious.
Saya yakin
I
agar
believe
kita dapat menjadi pribadi yang religius,
if we want to be a religious person,
mesti mempunyai faham dan pengalaman akan Allah yang benar. Itu sesuai dengan kepercayaan kita masing-masing. Yang paling penting bukan hanya faham, tetapi pengalaman.
Not only the understanding, but also the experience.
Saya yakin
Because I believe
faham dan pengalaman akan
the understanding and experience of God
pola pikir, perilaku,
determine our
pilihan
mindset,
manusia.
attitude, and our life choice.
Kita semua tahu ada berbagai macam faham tentang Allah.
That there are a lot of understanding.
Salah satu gambaran yang diharapkan menjadi landasan untuk being religious for peace, menurut keyakinan saya, adalah gambaran bahwa Allah itu pencipta yang peduli, caring creator. Dan itu dapat kita temukan kalau saya sih dalam latar belakang gereja Katolik di dalam kisah penciptaan. Allah pencipta itu adalah Allah yang peduli kepada manusia. Kisahnya kita semua tahu, khususnya saudari-saudaraku dalam latar belakang Kristiani, ada kisah mengenai Kain yang membunuh adiknya Abel. Sesudah peristiwa itu terjadi, Tuhan bertanya kepada Kain, "Di mana adikmu?" Kain menjawab, "Aku tidak tahu. Apakah aku ini penjaga adikku?" Tampil wajah Kain manusia yang tidak peduli. Kisah selanjutnya, Kain ketakutan. Dan dia berkata kepada Tuhan, "Barang siapa bertemu dengan aku, pasti akan membunuh aku." Hukum balas dendam. Waktu itu Tuhan mengatakan sekali-kali tidak. Tampil berlawanan sikap Kain yang tidak peduli terhadap adiknya dengan Tuhan pencipta yang peduli terhadap manusia. Seperti apapun manusia itu. Kepedulian terhadap alam menjadi sangat jelas pula di dalam kisah penciptaan. Sesudah Tuhan menciptakan Taman Eden, lalu dikatakan Tuhan Allah mengambil manusia, menempatkannya dalam Taman Eden untuk mengusahakan dan merawatnya. Atas dasar itu, saya yakin bahwa untuk menjadi pribadi yang religius dan untuk menjadi pemeluk agama yang sejati, kita mesti mempunyai faham dan pengalaman
we need to have the knowledge of God that really good for our life. In my faith belief, I believe
karena waktunya hanya 3 menit, kepedulian itu di dalam gereja Katolik sharing terumus di dalam yang disebut ajaran sosial gereja.
this is really important in our
100 tahun. Kalau diringkas, kepedulian di antara umat manusia dengan latar belakang iman dan agama apapun, pertama adalah hormat terhadap martabat manusia. Yang kedua, semuanya bertanggung jawab untuk membangun kebaikan bersama. Untuk terwujudnya kebaikan bersama, mesti dikembangkan solidaritas, nilai yang ketiga. Dan seperti apapun solidaritas antar manusia itu dikembangkan, selalu ada orang-orang yang kurang beruntung. Maka nilai yang keempat adalah memberi perhatian lebih kepada saudari-saudara kita yang kurang beruntung. Dan pilar yang kelima adalah hormat terhadap ciptaan, merawatnya supaya menjadi rumah kita bersama, di mana kita dapat hidup di dalam damai. Itulah yang dapat saya sampaikan dengan sangat pendek. Saya berharap nanti akan mendapatkan masukan-masukan, sharing-sharing yang pasti sangat kaya dari para sahabat DIAN Interfidei. Terima kasih, Tuhan memberkati.
Thank you very much for such a powerful reflection from Father Cardinal Suharyo. And ladies and gentlemen, we will go more deep and further for the other reflection that will be shared with us tonight in our talk show from friends from Asia Pacific. And let me present to you the moderator for the talk show, Reverend Dr. Mary Colimon from Christian Evangelical Church in Timor, East Nusa Tenggara, Indonesia. Reverend Mary, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, DIAN, for the time given to me. Good evening, everyone. I am Mary Colimon from West Timor, Indonesia. I'm talking to you from my isolation room. I'm infected by COVID-19 about 15 days ago. Thanks God, it's now better with me, so I can join with you tonight. And on behalf of my community, I want to also congratulate DIAN Interfidei, Ibu Elga, and all friends in Interfidei for good works that are being done around the country, but also with other networks in all over the world. This evening, we gather together from many places in Asia Pacific to celebrate the life and ministry of Interfidei, the Institute for Interfaith Dialogue in Indonesia, that established 30 years ago in Yogyakarta, Indonesia. Thank you all who are joining this meeting. I see about 115 persons participating in this webinar. Thank you so much for spending your time for this celebration, that we can celebrate together the initiative of founding this very important institution, and also to celebrate all its wonderful works during these 3 decades. I hope we will make use of the next 2 hours to share our knowledge, wisdom, and experiences around the theme of dialogue and interfaith relationship, and to absorb as many as we can from what we learned together this evening. We have now in our midst in this meeting 11 very remarkable persons, expert in the field of interfaith dialogue, very well known in their own country, but also internationally for their ideas and activities around the issue of dialogue. They are very kind to share with us this evening their perspective on interfaith dialogue based on their knowledge and experiences. First of all, we have around us Professor Greg Barton, Chair in Global Islamic Politics, Faculty of Arts and Education of Deakin University, Australia. Thank you, Professor Greg. And then we have also Professor Pablito Baibado Jr., Professor of Theology from University of St. Thomas from Manila, the Philippines. We have also Dr. Sing Min Kim. He is an alumni of the Indonesian Consortium for Religious Studies from Gajah Mada University. He himself is a South Korean from Seoul, Republic of Korea. And then Reverend Dr. Yoshinori Shinohara, Secretary General of Religion for Peace in Japan. Thank you for being here, Reverend Doctor. And we will have also a very known person, Miss Kuma Ikramullah, Head of Religion for Peace from Pakistan. Mr. Imram Sabur, he is the Terrorism Prevention Officer of the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, based in Bangkok, Thailand. And further, we have also Mr. Kiles Chaturvedi. He is an advisor, trainer, and evaluator for organizations working for the rights of the marginalized, based in India. Thank you for joining us from India, sir. And next, we have also tonight, this evening with us, Miss Christine Fertusi, Director of Mindanao Peacebuilding Institute Foundation from Davao City, the Philippines. Professor Dr. Kamarul Zaman bin Askandar, School of Social Sciences, University Science of Malaysia. Reverend Dr. Nobuhiro Nemoto, General Secretary of Asian Conference of Religion for Peace in Tokyo, Japan. And of course, our beloved Reverend Elga Sarapung, Director of Institute DIAN Interfidei, Yogyakarta. This is very well-known and expert in their field. We will learn a lot from them. I myself, Mary Colimon, I'm a Protestant pastor from West Timor, Indonesia. I belong to Gereja Masih Injili di Timor, the Christian Evangelical Church in Timor, East Nusa Tenggara Province. The committee of this meeting, of this talk show, has arranged to give chance to each resource person to share their opinion around 3 things. I think they already let you know. Each of you that I just mentioned your names, you are asked to share with us this evening. First of all, we want to ask you to share with us your experiences and your thought about interfaith issue in your own country and also in other countries that you are involved. Of course, each of you have a very rich experience and reflections that based on that. So please share it with us this moment of celebrating 30 years anniversary of Interfidei. By so doing, we hope we can inspire and enrich each other for better interfaith activities and network in the future. Second, could you please share about how your work relate to Interfidei and its works and to Indonesian Interfaith network in national scale in Indonesia? What kind of collaboration you have with Interfidei and other interfaith network? And in what ways you think the collaboration can be deepened and rich and widened in the future? The last question is, according to each of you, what is the importance of building, strengthening, and developing networks of interfaith dialogue and movement in Asia Pacific? Each of you, resource person, will get about 5 to 7 minutes. 5 to 7 minutes to share your experiences and thoughts. We will start first with Professor Greg Barton. Professor, the floor is yours. Once again, you get about 5 to 7 minutes. Please, Professor.
Thank you very much, and I'll try and keep my comments brief, but first let me say congratulations to Interfidei for this achievement. Coming through these last 30 years, there's been a lot of things happen in Indonesia, and it's remarkable for any organization to not only continue consistently so long, but to make such a consistent contribution. My perspective on Interfidei's contribution comes, of course, as an outsider looking at Indonesia from the perspective of Australia. And so it's natural that I would compare the experience of interfaith dialogue in Indonesia with what we see in Australia. And I think in many ways, the experience in Indonesia is richer and more direct. And the reason I say that is because in Australia, we see a generally successful multicultural society, but one in which religion sits on the periphery of national affairs. It's not generally mainstream. And interfaith dialogue in Australia tends to occur between people who have a sort of regular and consistent interest in interfaith dialogue. So it's coming from the edge of mainstream society, and then not from the center of mainstream religious groups, but from the edge of that. So my own faith community are Protestant Christians, and I know of very few people with a background similar to my own who have a consistent engagement in interfaith dialogue. I think most Protestant Christians in Australia would tend to feel that they're a little bit suspicious of interfaith dialogue, and in any case, it's not something which concerns them. And that's true, I think, across all of the religious communities. There are many people who are consistently engaged, but they are sort of fringe elements in terms of their own society. Whereas in Indonesia, I think it's remarkable that Interfidei can bring together people who are coming from the center of religious communities. And those religious communities, and I'm familiar particularly with Nahdlatul Ulama and Muhammadiyah, are very much mainstream forces in society, and very much play a prominent role. And Interfidei is able to connect with those mainstream elements. So in many ways, that interfaith dialogue takes a more central and more substantial position. Now, maybe that's natural because Indonesia is more interested and more open to discussing matters of religion. But I think it's a great achievement that in the world's largest Muslim nation, a interfaith group like Interfidei can so consistently engage with senior leaders, including senior Islamic leaders. And I think that's making a really important contribution. There's a limit to what we can reasonably expect with interfaith dialogue. We can't expect that it can solve all of our social problems or our political problems. Interfaith dialogue by itself can't overcome the problems of intolerance and outbreaks of sectarian sentiment. But I think one way we can understand the contribution made by Interfidei and groups like it is to ask ourselves the question, what would happen if we didn't have this group and this process? And I think if you take that thought experiment, you can see that the result of removing the opportunity for interfaith dialogue, in which Interfidei plays a leading role, would make society very much impoverish society, and would make existing problems that we struggle with much more severe, and mean that there are less opportunities for overcoming those problems. So I'm impressed by what's been achieved over the years in Indonesia in general. I'm encouraged by the persistence of democracy and the role of religious leaders in contributing to democratic openness. I know it's imperfect, and I'm very much conscious of the fact that, as with any society, when you look at it close up, you find many flaws that are disappointing, to the point sometimes it's discouraging. But I think looking at Indonesia from a global perspective, what's been achieved is really impressive. Not perfect, but impressive and encouraging. And I think that faith leaders have played an important role. And I think that significantly, interfaith dialogue has not just been occurring with people on the edge of society, but is engaged with leaders leading large faith communities in a way that makes it mainstream. And Interfidei has played a really key role in doing that. Of course, over the years, there's been some remarkable individuals who have made a difference. Friends of mine, and unfortunately, as time goes on, many of them have now passed on. But Johan Effendi, for example, who played a really important role in Interfidei, people like Nicholas Majid and Abdurrahman Wahid, of course. Johan was a very introverted, low-key, humble guy, but obviously Abdurrahman Wahid as president and Nicholas Majid were very prominent public intellectuals, but also very committed to interfaith dialogue and very much connected with Interfidei. I think that's a really important achievement. So I think we should not to just sort of congratulate too much, but to respect what's been achieved and to recognize its importance. I think we should take stock and recognize that it's really important to have that avenue to engage mainstream and significant leaders in interfaith dialogue. And that's something that Indonesia does better than my own country, Australia. And I think it's made a really important contribution to the quality of democracy. As I said, we can't expect it to solve all problems, and it's not going to be a perfect solution. That's not realistic, but it's made a very vital contribution. And Interfidei has been one of the key networks that's made that contribution. So let me encourage you to hang on to that and not be discouraged because we find so many things in the world are not as good as we would like them to be. Let's be grateful that this has been achieved and it continues to keep open the possibility of dialogue. And of course, this is an ongoing struggle. I mean, there's a lot of problems. The problems of intolerance, of extremism are not going away, not least because they're global in nature. So what happens in other parts of the world impacts what happens in our own country, and that's the case with Indonesia. But it's really important that we have alternative voices speaking up and presenting a different way of engaging that speaks to mutual respect and tolerance and rejoicing in plurality. So I think this is a very encouraging thing to reflect upon. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Professor. So important what you say. We learned a lot from there, especially when you say that during these 30 years, Interfidei has been so consistent in doing this work of interfaith dialogue, and especially when you link interfaith dialogue with democracy, comparing your what you know about Indonesia and about what happened in your country in Australia. Thank you so much, Professor. And then we go to the Philippines. Professor Pablito Baibado Jr., the floor is yours, please.
Good evening and perhaps good morning to others. Thank you very much, our good moderator, Reverend Dr. Mary Colimon. I would like to greet and congratulate Interfidei for its 30th anniversary. I think you deserve much praises for this success. I just to greet and of the Archdiocese of Jakarta, and my boss on the panel. We have Reverend Dr. Nobuhiro Nimoto, and then of course Reverend Yoshinori, and my colleague who are also with us, Miss Ikramullah Khan, and of course our good friend who brought us tonight. My greetings to Reverend Elga Sarapan. Yeah. In the Philippines, my work is basically coordinating the interreligious dialogue coalition. And in a Christian majority where you have an 80% Catholics and another 10% Protestants with 5% Muslims, 5% indigenous people, and a very small percentage of other religions, the key issues that we are talking about here is on historical injustices, marginalization committed against our Muslim minority and indigenous peoples. On the other hand, we have many minority Christian denominations also. And in the words of Bishop Bienvenido Tudtud, the problem we have in terms of these minority religions is really the negative biases and prejudices of the majority. It is within this light that the work of the interreligious coalition in the Philippines, in particular in Manila, is more on becoming the voice of the voiceless. So you have, for example, the Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines in an interreligious coalition, the Protestant community in that interreligious coalition becoming the voice of our Muslim brothers and sisters in Mindanao, of the indigenous peoples, fighting for their self-determination, fighting for justice and all that. So basically becoming the voice of the voiceless. The other one that we do in the interreligious circle is really what we call, in response to the challenge made by Bishop Tudtud, mainstreaming the minority religions. In the interreligious circle, we make it sure that everyone is equal in the decision-making process, that everyone is on the same ground in all the activities, and in terms of the celebrations, for example. So we do not dominate, that we make it sure that the celebrations and activities are not dominated by the majority. In fact, most of the activities and celebrations are supposed to be spaces of mainstreaming the already marginalized, so that the greater majority can change their negative biases and prejudices. We should know that every religious community, every faith-based organization is already doing many good things on the ground. They are working very hard. They have a lot of programs. They have so many beautiful activities, and they are doing a lot of advocacy work on social justice, labor unions, and ecology, and almost everything about human life. But what is lacking sometimes is really the relationship between and among these religions, these faith-based communities. So what we do is to provide this space for the coming together of the leaders, so that, you know, when they come up with activities in the ground, a Protestant would bring together a Muslim, a Catholic, and other religious leaders working in the ground, so that symbolically and literally, we are able to change the perspective of the people in the ground, that their religious leaders, the multi-religious leaders, are actually working together as one. Of course, what we do is also in terms of humanitarian work. We have, you know, during Ramadan, for example, we have a lot of earthquakes, not earthquakes, but storms in the Philippines, and a lot of problems, like sometimes conflict in Mindanao. So we gather resources from between and among the religious communities and come up with what we call humanitarian mission. Now, with this note, what would be the implication to our relationship with Interfidei? I think if we work with Interfidei, as a minority, of course, they are into interreligious dialogue, but I think we can learn so much how a minority religion in a Muslim-dominated country can show to us what it means to work, what kind of networking, what kind of capacity building they are doing, that they are able to succeed in working for 30 years. Now, these 3 conferences that we are holding is a testament to the success. And I think that, we have known Reverend Elga for quite a number of years. Her contributions to the Asian Conference of Religions for Peace, her advocacies to human trafficking and human rights. And I think her leadership in Asia has somehow contributed to the many things that we have learned in the way we do things in the Philippines. I really think that if we have to progress in this at the Southeast Asian or even at the Asian level, we need to come together, that all the multi-religious organizations, big religious organizations and small, if we come together, we should be influencing ASEAN, in terms of their policies and programs to make their policies more humane and consistent with rights and the ethical norms that we all subscribe. That's all what I would like to say. And once again, I congratulate Interfidei for its 30th anniversary. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Professor Pablito. Very rich things that you are sharing with us about what are you doing in your context as a minority facing prejudices and discrimination, and that also about your reflection on your collaboration with Interfidei and how you can learn from each other. Thank you so much. And then we go to Dr. Sung-Min Kim from South Korea. Dr. Sun-Min Kim, the floor is yours, please.
First of all, congratulations on the 30th anniversary of Interfidei. And also thank you for inviting me to this webinar today. Actually, I studied the relationship between interreligious dialogue and the consolidation of democracy in Indonesia. Today, I would like to briefly introduce the religious situation in Korea. Probably the case of Korea will provide a model for good comparison with Indonesia. While Indonesians take religion very seriously, but Koreans, especially the younger generation, do not regard religion as important. Do not believe that religion is having a positive impact on society. Korea is rapidly becoming secularized.
Dr. Sung, I'm sorry, but I have problem to hear your voice. Is also other people have the same problem with me?
Yes.
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 Yes, ma'am. Yes, not clear. Not clear.
Okay. Do you hear me clearly?
Better, yes, please.
Okay. Korea is becoming very secularized. According to Korean Gallup poll, the percentage of Korean adults who have religion is declining sharply from 58% in 2004 to 40% in 2021. In particular, the phenomenon of de-religion in the 20s and 30s is accelerating. Only 22% in their 20s and 30% in their 30s have religion in Korea.
of the total population, Protestantism takes 17%, Buddhism 16%, Catholicism 6%, and the remaining minority religions together account for about 1%. And the last are non-religions. So very secular. The proportion of non-religious people that they do not have a favorable religion increased from 33% in 2004 to 61% in 2021. And then many Koreans perceive that the social influence of religion is also declining. Compared to 2014, the social status of religion has declined overall. In particular, non-religious people have a very negative evaluation of the social role of religion. So, interreligious conflict Korea is not a serious social problem. The problem with religion in Korea is that religion does not properly present a vision for the next generation. The religion does not provide a model for individual godly life or take the initiative for social progress. There are many reasons, maybe. Protestantism and Buddhism focused on external growth. For example, the construction of mega churches and temples, and they failed to show love by caring for the marginalized and the poor. So there are many, much disappointments about religion. Although the mega churches grew as the numbers donated a lot, they introduced a business management system, pursued materialistic growth, and even pursued political power. There were several times that people gathered and collectively acted for impeachment for politically corrupt politicians and demand reform to the government. But at those times, religion was silent or secretly supported conservative political forces. Because of this, especially among young people, religious people have been perceived as not conducive to social progress. Recently, during the coronavirus pandemic, the negative image of religion was further strengthened in Korea. Some conservative churches and religious leaders criticized the government's quarantine measures and conducted offline worship services. But the result was group infections. These results gave many citizens the image that religious groups or religious people are irrational and prioritize group interests over those of the community as a whole. During the authoritarian era, religion did play a great role in the democratic movement. However, in the process of democratic consolidation, religious organizations or religious leaders that have grown in power have chosen to unite with conservative political forces. So in Korea, each religion must restore a healthy influence on society. They should be able to present a moral and ethical basis in everyday life and be able to unite for the universal value of democracy. And religion should be able to provide fresh inspiration for social reform and progress, especially to the younger generation. Otherwise, more and more young people will be disinterested in religion. there will be a big crisis in Korea. So there should be internal reformation and internal dialogue for the reformation, and there should be dialogue with younger generations about the common good for the society. This is my presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Sun Min Kim, for your sharing from your context. This evening is very rich because what we learn from all over the world. From Korea, this evening we learned about the challenge of secularization facing by religions there, but also about conservatism within religions, but also conservatism in political life, and how religions and conservative politics become one. And in this kind of situation, it is very important to have interfaith dialogue, that religions can learn from each other and to have to become a progressive force that serve as moral basis for society and also for democracy. That's what I can learn from your presentation, Dr. Sung Min Kim. And my friends, all the participants, if you have questions or comments, you can write in the chat room. We also want to learn from you what you think about this all presentation. And now we go to Japan. We go to Reverend Dr. Yoshinori Shinohara, Secretary General of Religion for Peace in Japan. The time is yours, Reverend Dr. Yoshinori.
Chairperson, thank you very much. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak. First of all, I would like to congratulate the Institute for Interfaith Dialogue in Indonesia, Interfidei, for celebrating its 30th anniversary. The founders of Interfidei held the strong belief through pursuit of religious freedom, faith is the realization of the value of peace based on humanity and brotherhood, and is the essential right of people. I also admire their willingness to cooperate and collaborate with various religions and organizations in order to solve the common problems of all people widely, rather than seeking to solve the problem of the only one particular group or community. I would like to express my admiration for your continuous efforts over the past 30 years. So Religions for Peace Japan, you can see it? Okay.
Yes, we see it.
Okay, just a moment. Okay. So Religions for Peace Japan, which I belong, since its founding in the 1970s, has been committed to the following 4 principles. Number 1, active dialogue based on the spirit of tolerance. Number 2, the gathering of wisdom from mutual understanding among religions. Number 3, collaborations with all sectors of society. Number 4, the development of people who can act from a global perspective. With these principles in mind, we are currently working to abolish nuclear weapons, addressing global warming, protect refugees, conflict transforming, and response natural disaster by multi-religious cooperation. Here, for first time, I have experienced a strong awareness of the need for the interfaith dialogue. It was 6 months after I started work for Religions for Peace Japan. In July of 2005, the WCLP Asian Youth Meeting was held in Ambon, Indonesia. As you know, Ambon is a place where a violent conflict between Islam and Christianity happened in 1999. In the Ambon Conference, 68 religious youth from 14 countries gathered in that conflict zone to express solidarity together with various religious denominations for the purpose of building peace. I was truly moved by the fact religious youth were seriously trying to eradicate conflicts and bring about reconciliation through religious dialogues. Interfidei was the organizer of this conference. I was especially amazed by the great leadership of Reverend Elga Sarapung, who ran the conference, and I was greatly inspired by her passion for religious dialogue and her actions. One of the main reasons why I continue to engage in religious dialogue today is my experience of participating in the Ambon Conference. Today, I would like to introduce one issue RFP Japan currently focuses on. It is an issue of human trafficking. There are more than 40 million victims of human trafficking in the world. Sexual exploitation, labor exploitation, child labor to be victims. According to the US Department of State Trafficking in Persons Report 2021, published just this month, Japan is not doing enough to prevent human trafficking and does not meet minimum standards in several important areas. As religious people living in Japan, RFP Japan has started to strongly address to this and take action to change this situation. Firmly committed to our belief in the equal dignity of all life, we will hold talks with Japanese government this month and call for a strong and quick response. In addition, because this matter closely related to each and every one of us, we believe education is crucially important. We try to create an opportunity to study reality of the harms of human trafficking as many as possible. The day after tomorrow, this Sunday, on 17th of this month, we will have such online study together with RFP Philippines chapter. Please see ACRP website if you are interested in participating in. So, Interfidei has been working on this issue of human trafficking for many years. RFP Japan would like to learn a lot from Interfidei in order to solve this problem, and we would be grateful for your continuous guidance and cooperation. Finally, I would like to express wish for the further strengthening of the relationship between Interfidei and RFP Japan, the promotion of the further collaboration with ACRP, and further enrichment of Interfidei's activities toward your principles. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you so much, Reverend Dr. Yoshinori Shinohara. You make use of 7 minutes precisely. Very, very well. Very good. Thank you. And especially, thank you for sharing with us your thoughts and your experience around the issue of human trafficking. I agree with you that our interfaith dialogue agenda should embrace this social injustice issue and look to the way how religions can work together to face this issue and to transform the reality of injustice. Thank you so much. As one who come from East Nusa Tenggara in Indonesia, that almost every day we receive the dead bodies of human workers from Malaysia and from other countries in Asia. We want to work together with you on this issue. And now we move to the next speaker, Miss Kuma Ikramullah, Head of Religions for Peace in Pakistan. Miss Kuma Ikramullah, the floor is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and greetings from Pakistan. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, and congratulations to Interfidei for their 30th anniversary celebration. And this is such a good initiative. You have taken over people from all over Asia, and you have given them an opportunity to share their reflections. I think it is a wonderful initiative and a wonderful way of celebrating the 30 years as well. So coming to Pakistan, I would like to say that religion, as we all know, is a very, very powerful and motivating factor and force in Pakistan, as in other parts of Asia as well. People in Pakistan are very, very passionate about religion. They feel it very, very strongly. The majority of the population in Pakistan is Muslims, and but we have Hindus and Christians and Sikhs, and we have people from the Zoroastrian religion as well, and some Buddhists also. So we have a mix of religions. However, the majority of the population consists of Muslims. And but as you all know that religions all over the world, religions in Pakistan or in any country of Asia, share common core values such as peaceful coexistence, tolerance, caretaking. And these are the factors which have motivated all of us who are working in different organizations, and especially with my experience in working for Religions for Peace Pakistan, and in collaboration with the Religions for Peace Asia, then with the Religions for Peace International, all of us share common goals and values. And those goals and values are now translated into the Sustainable Development Goals also, which align very closely with the religious values, which are peace building, conflict resolution, combating extremism, tackling poverty, and addressing climate change, and so on and so forth. All working for the betterment of humanity, bringing about peaceful coexistence. And in Pakistan, I wanted to highlight the fact that my experience with Religions for Peace has been that my family, my grandfather was one of the people who initiated and held an important role in forming the Asian Conference for Religions for Peace. And then my father also worked a lot for Religions for Peace. And so I have always grown up with that atmosphere, and I have a rich legacy to fulfill, and I look forward to my elders, all of the people with whom I look forward to, who are speaking over here. I have always admired them and taken them as my mentors. And so now being given this opportunity of being the Secretary General of Religions for Peace Pakistan, it is not only a big honor, but a big responsibility, because we have a big legacy to fulfill, especially now. In the fact that you all must be aware that Pakistan has been combating terrorism and extremism for a long time. And this image of Pakistan also, that it is an extremist country, has had to be cleared up a lot with Western media also, and with other countries as well. And the fact that we had to deal with a lot of extremism in our country as well. And over here, the religious leaders played a very, very important role. So the role of religious leaders has been important throughout time immemorial, I think, because Before there were religious states, and also now, even when there are political states where there is a democracy or there is a dictatorship or there is a kingship, the role of religion and religious leaders is so important that the people will first listen to the cleric or to the imam or to the priest, like what has happened in the COVID. COVID is such a big example of how the religious leaders have impacted the lives of the people positively. And in Pakistan, you see, the government and Religions for Peace Pakistan collaborated with the government and with the religious leaders in propagating the fact that you must follow the SOPs, you must wear the masks, and the humane factor, the humane instinct of the people came out in this, that you must help each other, because this disease has affected not only the rich society or only the poor society, it has affected everybody. There is no discrimination. So the help, the factor of the humane factor of helping each other has brought people together. And the religious element, people have turned towards religion. They are praying, they are asking people to pray for each other. It doesn't matter, like the example of India, where there was Ramzan, and the Hindus were asking the Muslims to pray in Ramzan, because Muslims pray a lot in Ramzan, as you all know. So the religious factor has been there, that people have turned towards religion, that they know that there is a higher being who is there to help us. In this, people have helped each other, and Religions for Peace Pakistan has also played an important role in helping each other by providing them masks or groceries, as in other parts of the world this has happened. And then coming to the interfaith movement and the gathering, I believe that this is such an important platform for promoting peace, for promoting faith-based diplomacy, for bringing about a change. The role of religious leaders is paramount. And this can be seen everywhere in Pakistan, especially during the COVID, because there were announcements being made from the mosques and the churches to follow these guidelines. And therefore, in disaster management, in the role of climate change, you can see that people have come out to support the refugees. Pope Francis, in a document, has advocated for climate change. You must all have seen that document. So it's a combined effort. All religions promote common things. And my message would be that carrying forward the fact that we must work together, stand united. The way for the future is global partnerships. And this effort of Interfidei right now, of gathering everybody together, has been excellent. And so global partnerships, leaving no one behind and carrying forward, should be the message for today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Suma Ikramullah. We learn from the challenge, but also good works that you are doing in Pakistan. Thank you for reminding us about how to link the work of Interfaith and its agendas with a global platform, like you mentioned about sustainable development goals and all its agendas. And then we will go on to Master Imram Sabur from Bangkok, Thailand. Please, Mr. Imram Sabur.
Thank you very much, Sister Mary. May peace be upon all of us, and good evening, sisters and brothers. First of all, allow me to express my sincere gratitude for allowing me to be part of this wonderful gathering this evening. It is also my pleasure to be able to reconnect with familiar faces, with sisters and brothers in Interfaith peace-building community, especially Sister Ibu Elga Sarapong, that's the way I call her, Brother Sam, Professor Kamal Samad Askanda, and Sister Christine Fertusi, and other sisters and brothers. One of the first and most important positive rewards in my spiritual and interfaith peace-building journey is a great opportunity to actually get to know Interfidei community when I was still a young activist almost 20 years ago. The first interaction with Interfidei was actually over 2 decades when I organized a Youth for Peace workshop in Yogyakarta. And at that time, I was with the Asian Muslim Action Network. Our board member, Dr. Habib Christine, who was also the board member of Interfidei, arranged a visit to one of the Buddhist temples, which is not very far from Borobudur. And that was the first time that we had interaction with the Interfidei community to learn about the interfaith dialogue with different religious leaders. And it was also an opportunity for me as an activist working in the conflict-affected region to understand how the faith communities can play an important role in bridging the gap and cross the religious divides and unify resources inherent within faith communities to overcome prejudice, foster understanding, and join hands to collectively address different challenges. And I also recollect that we had an opportunity to work with this organization in the Church of Subidan. That brought me again to reconnect with Interfidei after several years. And that's how I actually first met Sister Ibu Elga Sarapung. We actually was attending this conference, a workshop in Yogyakarta. And that's when I was amazed by the work of Interfidei that brought together people of faith, including youth, women, faith leaders from different parts of Indonesia, from Aceh, Ambon, Maluku, up to Jayapura in Papua, to share their struggles for peace and justice using interfaith inspirations and resources to really overcome conflict they are facing. And it was a forum where the plight of people struggling in conflict was promoted. And thus they also try to explore the areas of collaboration, despite the fact that they were struggling in their own community, but they could actually mobilize solidarity and good practices and different types of concrete collaborative interventions. And what I have learned from Interfidei, which I think remain very relevant to our peace building journey, at least 4 aspects. The first one is the ability to explore hidden prejudice everyone has within ourselves. And often we do not recognize that we really have this prejudice within ourselves. This is actually a prerequisite to dialogue and reconcile with oneself, but at the same time with others. The second one is the interfaith dialogue itself also requires the interfaith engagement to critique and better understand one's own faith with criticality. This process actually enables people, all of us, who are engaged in peace building work to recognize diversity and diverse interpretations of the holy text. And this type of critical interfaith reflections is necessary to pave the foundation for the interfaith dialogue. And it also promotes constructive and transformative interaction to interpret the holy text in the light of inclusivity, cohesion, peace, and justice for everyone. And the third one is the interfaith dialogue itself allow us to appreciate one another's challenges within and between our communities. And most importantly, the rich resources that are inherent in our faith community to unify and mobilize to foster understanding, strength, and empower our faith communities to counter different forms of extremism, violent extremism, and to achieve our common goal, which is justice and peace. And the last aspect is the intrafaith and interfaith platforms allow peace activists and members of faith communities to critically and collectively analyze conflict that we encounter, which also allow us to discern complexity of societal challenges and join hands to address interfaith in collective spirit to address different challenges that we face. And as a result, in the real world, as other speakers have already mentioned, that we have observed several interfaith and interfaith communities that cross a divide and utilize their resources inherent in their faith to join hands to address different challenges from humanitarian assistance, HIV/AIDS in the area of prevention, care, stigma reduction, climate change, human trafficking, as mentioned by Professor Yoshinora, violent extremism, of course, and terrorism, to create the cohesive and peaceful society. So there are so many positive changes that faith community have contributed to. And I also would like to take this opportunity to once again join hand with all friends, sisters and brothers of Interfidei to convey my sincere congratulations on Interfidei's 30th anniversary and success. I believe that the rich experience, wisdom, and expertise and rich resources that Interfidei has would continue creating positive impacts and inspire faith community and different individuals, especially young generations, in our journey of justice and peace. Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much for your sharing. I think I heard the voice of young people here. When you share about the experience of involvement in some of Interfidei's programs and how the programs enrich your perspective and your experience, I think it is very important that in the celebration of 30 years of Interfidei, we still hold on the commitment for the young generation. That if you look back to these 30 years, many things happens, many good things has been done. The fact that this evening we have people from many places in Asia Pacific, it in itself tell us about how consistent is Interfidei doing its work in its agenda, and how we now, when we look forward to the next 30 years, we remember to empower the young generation to move forward with these very important works that is being doing in these 3 decades. And then, if you look to the time, we have now only about 30 minutes left. I will move on to the next speaker, resource person, Miss Christine Fertusi from the Philippines. Please, Miss Christine.
Okay. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for this invitation. I'm very happy to be here. I offer my congratulations to Interfidei on its 30th anniversary, and a special greeting to Elga, whom I met 10 years ago at one of our trainings, and since that time we have stayed in touch. So I would like to begin my presentation with a brief description of the Mindanao Peacebuilding Institute, where I work, and sharing of our training experiences in interfaith dialogue. MPI is an Asian training institute grounded in the Mindanao, Philippines context that provides a space for people of diverse backgrounds to gather together, share, and learn in a safe environment where all viewpoints are encouraged and respected. We say we are a resource for peace builders, providing skills, conducting research, and building solidarity within the Asia-Pacific region and beyond. MPI focuses on 3 programmatic areas, which are education and training, research, documentation, and learning, and networking. Under education and training, MPI has held an annual peace building training where for 20 years we offered a course on religious peace building and interfaith dialogue, looking at how religion can be a resource for peace or a source of conflict. MPI trained many peace builders, especially in Mindanao, who were engaged in interfaith dialogue and played a key role in the interfaith dialogue in the country. In relation to diversity, MPI has offered field-based courses to Indigenous communities in Mindanao, where the participants go and interact with the elders, the datus, and the community members who are the resource persons about the efficacy of their traditional ways of resolving conflict and how these practices are interfaced with legal and judicial procedures of the government. Through our trainings and outreach to our alumni, we hope to create a critical mass of peace builders that is interconnected and intertwined, strong and enduring, and alive with the creative power to transform our world into a place where justice, peace, and goodness prevail. These formations of peace builders, peace activists, interfaith dialogue actors, and stakeholders, and others create the synergy to sustain these efforts. This leads me to question number 2 and number 3, the relevance of Interfidei's work and its relationship to the Indonesian Interfaith Network, and why it is important to work together as an Asia-Pacific interfaith network. One of our objectives is to create space and connect people with from diverse sectors to build a critical mass of peace builders to promote just peace. MPI recognizes the importance of building relationships, as does Interfidei, between and among peace builders and interfaith dialogue actors and all people of goodwill, as a way to bring about social transformation and to sustain our commitment to justice and peace. Without having the support of each other, we will not be able to sustain our peace building and interfaith work in the face of tremendous forces of violence, repression, extremism, and the demonization of the other that makes the other less human and something that can be eliminated and discarded. We believe that only by working together and being in solidarity with each other can we achieve just and peaceful communities wherever we are. The words in your terms of reference about these webinars resonated with me. We at MPI also believe that building and sustaining a network that transcends borders is vital as a long-term strategy for achieving a world where justice and peace reign. The more we cooperate, the stronger we will be. So in conclusion, I believe it is urgent for us to work together as a Asia-Pacific interfaith and peace-building network, because it is only by being united that we will have the strength to speak truth to power and transform our world into a place of justice, peace, beauty, and goodness. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Christine Fertusi, Director of the MPI, Mindanao Peace Building Institute from the Philippines. I want to highlight what you said, that working among interfaith activists is very important, as we are now facing increasing challenge of intolerance, injustice, and discrimination in our world. So thank you for reminding us about that. And then we will go further to Professor Dr. Kamarul Zaman bin Askandar from School of Social Sciences, University of Science, Malaysia. The floor is yours, Professor.
Okay, thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum, everybody. My name is Kamarul Zaman. I'm talking from Malaysia. And first of all, I want to congratulate Interfidei for your 30th anniversary. Thank you very much, my old friend, Ibu Elga, for inviting me to be one of the speaker tonight to reflect, on Interfidei and our activities, in doing interfaith. I've known Ibu Elga for quite some time. I mean, we have known each other maybe 20 years or more. We were still young and beautiful when we started doing work. We still are beautiful, not so young.
Still beautiful, yes.
But we shows that the kind of work that we are doing, is something that is very necessary in this world. It's bringing people together. It's bringing humanity together. And I congratulate Ibu Elga and her staff and Interfidei for doing this all these years. I myself am not from a religious background. I'm a teacher of peace and conflict studies, so that's why I always try to connect these two together, because I do feel that the field of peace and conflict studies and interfaith dialogue is very much connected to each other, because we cannot face the issues without connecting these two, especially because if you work in Malaysia is a country, where everything, is divided along identity lines. And then if you know Malaysian politics, you know that the political parties in Malaysia are divided along ethnic lines, identity lines. And this have created, more problems, in our society. So there is actually a need, to work together and to look at commonalities, commonalities between the various groups, irrespective of religion, irrespective of identity, because we share common problems, we share common issues. But that is something that is lacking, not only in Malaysia, I think, but in many other places that I've worked with. I mean, for example, if you look at the COVID-19 pandemic situation that we have been facing over the last few years or couple of years, that has actually in Malaysia created polarization within our society, and it was very disappointing, especially in the beginning. Because it creates a situation where people were worried about their safety to the extent that they are pushing other groups to the sideline. And then we have groups, especially marginalized minority groups, stateless people, refugees, that were being pushed to the sidelines, thinking that, they are, part of the problem, and we don't want to be infected, by these people who we don't know where they are coming from. And we fear, for our safety because they are in the midst of our society, and it was very disappointing, in the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. Malaysia has always had a lot of refugees coming to Malaysia for many years, but during this pandemic, it was also the occasion where the authorities pushed away, Rohingya refugee ships back to the sea, and that was very disappointing. Thinking that they are coming in, with the spread, they coming in can spread virus in the country and all those things. So all these things, are very disappointing. But as we go along, as we move, from the most critical periods, and then the realization that this is something that actually affects everybody. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter which identity group you belong to. It doesn't matter with what ethnicity, with religious group you belong to. This is something that we have to work together with, in order to address the situation. And then you see, the situation changing. People began to work better with each other. And then now we are doing our vaccination process, and the target is to vaccinate everybody because this is a problem that is being faced by everybody. So this is something, that shows to us that no matter who you are, no matter what group you belong to, there are problems in this world that would need, the attention of all of us to address these problems. And this is something also, I don't have much time. This is also something that I want to connect to the work of Interfidei over the last 30 years or so, and lessons learned, positive lessons learned that I've learned, from the work of Interfidei. Because I think Interfidei focus on shared problems, that are facing all of us. Interfidei also focus on humanity. It's about humanity. It's about, how to not only make humanity survive, but prosper. And we need to work together in order to solve, these problems. Another point from Interfidei's activity is about the need for communities to take the lead in solving the issues. We cannot rely on governments. We cannot rely on just a few groups. It has to be the involvement of all the communities. For example, in conflict areas in the region also, I work a lot in southern Thailand, for example. There are groups coming together, not belonging to one group, the Muslim and the Buddhist combining together, creating, for example, insiders, peace builders platform, where Buddhists and Muslim work together in order to address the conflict in southern Thailand. And we see also this in other places in the region. So communities working together, taking the lead to solve problems of society. And then Interfidei also show the importance of networking, because we live in a world where we don't work in isolation. We are strengthened by the partners, by the cooperation and collaboration that we have with each other, not only within the nation but across nations. So that's why Interfidei and the network that Interfidei has, globally and in the Asia Pacific and globally, have actually not only strengthened the work of Interfidei but also strengthened the work of all the other partners. So that is something that we need to focus on, to increase this networking. And then finally, Interfidei also shows the need for dialogue. And this is something, I think this is something that we need to stress on, because dialogue is to foster communication and to foster understanding between groups. And Interfidei has been, the pioneer in sharing, how to do dialogue between religious communities in Indonesia. And I think we from Malaysia also look at this as examples on how, we can learn, what we can do in our own society. So these are just some of the lessons that I want to mention about the work of Interfidei. And congratulations again, Mbak Elga and Interfidei for 30th anniversary celebration. I hope I will be invited for the 50th anniversary, inshallah.
Inshallah. Yeah, thank you so much, Professor, for highlighting the importance of works of Interfidei within the country, in Indonesia, but also across nations. And now I'm sorry that we forget to give chance to Master Kiles Chaturvedi from India. Please, Mr. Kiles, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I was perfectly all right, even if you had given me a miss, because I personally feel that I may be the least qualified in this August gathering to be speaking on this issue, because I'm really not a subject matter expert. But okay, let me begin by first of all congratulating Interfidei. For me, my contact with Interfidei for the last 4 years or so has been very inspiring, I must say. Every time I have met my colleagues from Interfidei, Ibu Elga, Pa Otto, and other colleagues, they give, honestly speaking, they give me a lot of peace, calm. Their presence is very soothing. And I think it comes from the kind of work they do. And I've seen that in the communities. I've been to Makassar with them, and the way in which they have been successful in inspiring the young people in really taking up very motivated work on interfaith harmony, people from across religions is absolutely nothing short of inspiring. So congratulations for that to begin with. As I said, I'm not the most qualified. Why? Because I'm basically a trainer, evaluator of civil society organizations work. I also engage with faith-based organizations within India. And for the last few years, I've been working with faith-based organizations and civil society organizations working on the topic of freedom of religion and belief in different countries, 4 or 5 countries, who are all partners of one of Interfidei's partner, which is a Dutch organization called Mensen met een Missie. So I work with them. What I would like to say is that I possibly would be able to give a ringside view. I've also been part of a couple of evaluations, including one done for the Mensen met een Missie's work of partners like Interfidei, etc. And we could see some common trends across countries. But first, I think just a quick peek into Indian situation. I would just like to share certain slides with all of you. You know, when we grew up in India, we were always very inspired by a fairly progressive Indian constitution and a fairly stable democratic setup that we witnessed through our young ages, through our youth. And we were always talked about secularism, unity in diversity. These were the buzzwords, these were the themes we were always told. However, we were always disturbed by periodic riots and religious conflicts, etc., that we saw. In the last 25 years or so, there have been fault lines appearing for sure. And in fact, very, very recently, just within this week, we've had an very interesting research becoming mainstream all across our news media and everywhere. It's a research done by Pew Center, and they come up with a very interesting tagline where they say Indians want to live together separately. It may sound paradoxical, but they back it with very interesting data. For example, as per their latest research, some of the quick facts I bring to you, 91% Indians of various religious backgrounds overwhelmingly say they are very free to practice their faiths, number one. They all say it is important to respect all religions to be truly Indians, and it's an important part of belonging to their own religious community. Substantial minorities would not want people of other religions as their neighbors. So, respecting is part of their credo, but they would not want them as their neighbors. And this is it's increasingly serious issue in India now. It is important, they say, to stop men and women from marrying in other castes and religions. We have this caste system in India, so they would not want. And the conclusion that comes up is that India's concept of religious tolerance does not necessarily involve mixing of religious communities. And while people in some countries may aspire to create a melting pot of different religious identities, many Indians seem to prefer a country more like a patchwork fabric, with clear lines between different groups. Now, what we see in our society, where does the problem start? The problem starts because where, say 64% Hindus, according to this survey, also say that it is important to be Hindu to be truly Indian, which is a majority religion. It is important to be able to speak Hindi, which is only one of our, I think, 13 national languages. But many northern people, which is the majority population, say it's important to speak Hindi. So that's where the fault lines really start. And the political narrative also increasingly for last 20 years or so has been based on people's majoritarian view. And that's really led to, the results on the ground in the sense of more and more increasing hate speech, increasing hate crime, a lot of biased laws coming in, biased handling of cases by police, minorities, losing out in a major way is what we have. And in this survey, for example, 40% Muslims in the north and 20% overall say that they have faced discrimination in past 12 months. In India, according to the caste system, the most backward caste, which is the Dalits, 20% of them say that they've faced discrimination in the past 12 months. Now, I have been seeing efforts by a wide variety of actors, nationally, internationally, including agencies like Interfidei. And I think there are a lot of CSOs, including those working with faith leaders who are working on this issue. There are journalists who routinely highlight this particular issue. There's a lot of buzz on social media. Like in Indonesia, apart from Interfidei, we engage with Gus Durian, network, which is also doing a good bit of work through social media channels in a very powerful way. However, my concluding words, my experience and also a bit of advice, if I may, to agencies, including Interfidei. What's happening is, and this evaluation we did recently of all the works of mentioned but embassy partners of this particular project highlighted that the counter narrative that we are proposing is not strong enough currently to matter. It's an earnest effort, it's a sincere effort, but it's not a strong enough counter narrative. Or when it is often colored as antagonistic. It is colored as antagonistic, and the polarization takes place, and that polarization is very high. So my final words would be, there is a high importance, what Interfidei has asked us as a question. I think there is no doubt that there is high importance for the need of networking and amplifying the work and voice. But I guess what is tactically, strategically very important is to need to rope in people or leaders who are widely known, who are respected in the society, and they're perceived to be voices of reasons. Because otherwise the polarization takes place very quickly, or otherwise the voices get lost, or we are sometimes in our own echo chamber. So I think that is very important. And finally, last thing, I think it's very important to constantly use non-violent communication, non-violent engagement, which of course agencies like Interfidei excel in using, and they're really masters at that. So this is what I would say, as my submission. I hope I managed it in decent time. I know the time is short. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Kilets Chaturvedi, for your presentation. I think one very important thing that should be highlighted from what you say is about the counter narrative, how we use social media to educate our community and to engage people in interfaith dialogue. Thank you so much. And now we will move to Reverend Dr. Nobuhiro Nemoto from General Secretary of Asian Conference of Religion for Peace in Tokyo, Japan. This will be the 10th resource person, and then we will go to Ibu Elga Sarapung in the last. Please, the floor is yours, Reverend Dr. Nobuhiro Nemoto.
Thank you very much for your invitation to this webinar commemorating the 30th anniversary of the Institute of Interfaith DIAN in Indonesia, Interfidei. I am Nobuhiro Nemoto, the Secretary General of Asian Conference of Religion and Peace. The theme and the sub-theme illustrate the importance of this webinar series. The theme, religion and being religious for peace. Sub-theme, sub-theme, be religious in a healthy manner, respect and love one another, and be in solidarity amongst the humankind, universe, and the Creator. First, I want to point out that religion that has lost its religiosity, namely spirituality or religious ethics, mission and vision in nature, can no longer be called a religion. It can be called a secularized religion, or what we call a too much institutionalized religion. It's not the criticism, it's a self-reflection. We have to be very careful about ourselves. The essence of religion is faith in God and Buddha. Genuine faith means unconditional and unlimited love for all beings in the universe, in the past, present, future, without any exception. No one should be left behind. The cruciality of interfaith dialogue, collaboration, and action is clearly stated in the vision, mission, principles, and the strategic goals of Religion for Peace, which we belong to. The common values and shared by Interfidei and RFP. I believe we have so much in common in between Interfidei and Religion for Peace, including Asian Conference on Religion and Peace. First, vision. the world or the regional religious communities cooperate effectively for peace on global, regional, national, and local levels, even in the grassroots levels, by taking concrete common action and the mission we have in common. We advance common action among the religious communities for peace. And multi-religious cooperation for peace and shared well-being is the hallmark of Religion for Peace and your movement, Interfidei. See, through the Religion for Peace and your movement network, Interfidei, diverse religious communities design deeply held and widely shared moral concerns, such as violent conflict, gender inequality, environmental degradation, threat to the freedom of thought, conscience and religion, and lack of interreligious understanding, exclusiveness. The principles we also share in common. One, respect religious diversities or differences and seek to honor the identity and the community of each religious and faith tradition. We should respect each other. B, leverage and the existing spiritual, moral, and social assets of the religious communities to act on deeply held and widely shared values. C, build and strengthen representative, sustainable multi-religious mechanisms co-owned by religious and faith institutions, communities, and movements. D, partner local, national, regional, and global multi-religious structures with governmental, intergovernmental, and non-governmental civil societies actors, including faith-based organizations, NGOs, yes, etc. And we have 6 strategic goals. I think we can share also these goals. We have set 6 strategic goals for the period of 2020 through 2025. These are interdependent. Progress towards one goal contributes to progress towards the others. 1, promote peaceful, just, and inclusive societies, never exclusive societies. 2nd, advance gender equality. Some people even say that the gender justice. 3, nurture a sustainable environment. 4, champion freedom of thoughts, conscience, and religion. 5th, strengthen interreligious education. I think education is also important at all levels to promote interreligious understanding and mutual respect. Last, foster multi-religious collaboration and global partnership. I think multi-religious collaboration is still very minor, but only within the religious circle. But outside of the religious circle, not many people don't know about the importance of multi-religious cooperation. Then application of vision, mission principles and the goals in Asia-Pacific region, okay? We have, ACRP has a virtual 9th General Assembly in Tokyo this month, on 19 to 20 October 2021. Unfortunately, we cannot do it a physical conference due to COVID-19 pandemic. The assembly objectives is to reaffirm and strengthen ACRP's commitment, our commitment and engagement in assisting people whose lives and livelihoods are being placed at risk in the Asia-Pacific region, in collaboration with other partners so that we can provide the genuine benefit for them. We have a main theme and sub-themes. Main theme, Asian religious communities in action, based on dialogue, but only talking is not enough. We have to take a concrete action, from whatever we can do it. So it's time to take a concrete action, moving towards an inclusive, healthy, prosperous, peaceful Asia. As you said, we also regard very important the word terminology and concept of inclusiveness. There are so many exclusiveness pervading in our world, unfortunately. Everyone is talking about the dignity of life, but we tend to talk about our dignity of our own group, our own countries. We forgot the equal dignity of all forms of life. We should stop about talking about the particular dignity of life of a particular group. Every form of life has a dignity, equal dignity. Then sub-theme, education for peace and human dignity, human rights and well-being for the vulnerable, reconciliation for social cohesion and harmony. And we have, as some people mentioned, that we have some 5 practice projects, including human trafficking. Education of the dignity of all forms of life should be the basis for eradicating all forms of structural violence, which generates direct violence. Then lastly, I want to share with you the common message of your movement, Interfidei and SRP Religion for Peace. Making interfaith collaboration the new normal in the post-corona era. Leave no one behind, and inclusion of minorities, inclusion of indigenous religion, including of minority people, minority religions. Sincere daily dialogue, jumping in dialogue is the spirit of inclusion. We have to do this dialogue not only on a special occasion, even on a daily basis, starting from our family members, our working place. Thus, finally, I believe patience is the most important value in interfaith dialogue and collaboration. Without patience, we are not afford to listen to others who may have a different idea. I think patience required for us, the leader of interfaith at the grass level, each national level, each level that we need to foster, cultivate ourselves the patience to listen to others, to find out the common values. Thank you very much. Anyway, thank you very much for inviting me to this very important webinar. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Reverend Dr. Nobuhiro Nemoto, for your very rich and wide perspective of your presentation. We learn so much from that. And now we will hear from Reverend Elga Sarapu, the Director of Institute DIAN Interfidei. Ibu Elga, kami persilahkan.
Yeah, really sorry, hair connection. Oh, okay.
Okay. Fine. Thank you. Moment. Thank you so much. First for all, before we started this evening webinar, our moderator asked me a question. Why the General Secretary you gave for 10 minutes? Different with the others, only for 5 to 7 minutes. Well, the reason is only that I can say Religion for Peace Asia or Asian Religion for Peace is our umbrella, our home, and we has to become our home. I mean, Religion for Peace Asia. On not only as Interfidei or Indonesia Interfaith Network, but all of us, the interreligious interfaith movement in Asia Pacific. That's why, yeah, as just explained by Reverend Nemoto, how ACRP is going on with the programs and the hopes that we can become a spiritual home for a concrete action, not only speaking, not only to do worship, it means liturgy, etc., but really concrete action. Secondly, I would like to say thank you very much for all what you have shared, and many things you mentioned is really, really important for us all as an interfaith movement in each of our countries, but also in Asia as a region. And we, our committee, the theme of these webinars, we plan to have a chance to read all and to learn all of the materials we got from all these series of webinars. The first two webinars is about our alumni and our Indonesian Interfaith Network. And then now our Asian region. And next week, we will have the last one, the International Network and Friends. So we do hope that we can have something that enrich us to know how we go further with our movement as Interfaith Movement for Peace. The third one, as you know, in Indonesia, this movement, as some of you mentioned before, that we Interfidei started with youth, and until now we also having many programs with youth. Because in Indonesia, it's very growing the spirit of how to respect each other, how really to build a peace networking, that we have to work together. We can't work by our own only. Whatever religions, whatever ethnics, whatever groups, we have to work together. The CSO, the government, religious leaders, religious actors, schools, all campuses, and any sectors. That's why we hope that we can be more stronger than just if we work alone. My last things that I would like to say, that we Interfidei and our Indonesia Interfaith Network will try to enrich and encourage our common spirit of peace of our religion for peace Indonesia. I'm a bit jealous with some of my friends from the Philippines, Japan, Pakistan, and others. So we will try to do our best to strengthen our religion for peace Indonesia. Again, thank you so much for all. I hope we still be optimistic with our future, our common future for peace. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ibu Elga, for your reflection and for addressing all the participants this evening. My friends, if you look to the chat room, you will find only one question. Ibu Ina from my friends from Interfidei remind me that there is one question that addressed actually to our friends from Korea for Dr. Sung Min Kim. Ibu Ina, can you help me with the question, please?
Yes, ma'am.
I can find it.
Yeah, okay. I will read the question for Dr. Sung Min Kim about the church. Yeah. This question from Mr. Nathaniel from Yogyakarta. Mr. Sung Min Kim, thank you. What do you think about church in the future in South Korea? Because I know the era of 90s, the Young Ki-cho Church is my prototype in church where I believe in that time.
Thank you so much, Kak Ina. Thank you so much. Dr. Sung Min Kim, the question about the future of church in Korea. I myself, I learned a lot about the Minjung theology and very inspired. When I do my master study, I learned about Minjung theology, about how church there, especially that work among the Minjung communities, doing very progressive work in coping with injustice, struggling together with this minorities group. Can you answer the question, please? Especially relating to the interfaith work in Korea, please.
In order for Korean churches to play a vital role in reforming the society, in my opinion, recovering the conservatism it will be the key for the future of the South Korean churches, because several churches are being mega churches. They are very rich and they have a very wide network, and they have political power, which is connected to conservative political forces. But younger generations do not like that kind of churches. And so Reverend Yonggi Cho's Full Gospel Church was a role model for many small or mid-sized churches. But nowadays, this church is criticized very much for their change in materialistic trend or something else. So I think recovering from that materialistic trend is the key for the Korean churches.
Is that all, Dr. Sun?
And in addition to that problem, Koreans are very quickly disinterested in religion. One of the main reasons is that they are just not interested in religious things. They are very instant and secular. So to attract their attention, I think churches need to pay more attention to get involved in social reformation activities.
Thank you so much. I think we all can learn from that, because what we learn about secularization is not only in one country, but it's a global tendency, and then we can learn from each other. My friends, thank you so much for this very, very rich evening. We will we still have about 10 minutes. And I want to, because there is no question anymore, I want to give like 1 minute to each speakers, research person, to give their closing statements, and then I myself will articulate some conclusion of this talk show. Is that okay that I give 1 minute to each to give your statement? First of all, if Professor Greg Barton is still here, I will give him the chance.
Thank you, Ibu Mary. I'll just make a very quick statement and encourage Interfidei and all of our friends in the network across Asia to not give up on the good work that you're doing. I think the challenge of pushing for tolerance and respect and for linking this to democratic reform remains more important than ever. I mean, there's been very good progress made, and there are excellent opportunities to make further progress now, but now is not the time to back off and to slacken efforts. Let me thank you for the opportunity to observe what you're doing and to offer these words of encouragement. You might feel discouraged and feel that there's hardly any progress being made or that things are going backwards. But as I said, from a global perspective, what is being achieved in Indonesia is very impressive.
Terima kasih. Keep moving with your good works, Interfidei. You inspire us nationally, but also internationally, and we need you to learn from, and we support each other. Thank you, Professor Greg. And then we go to Professor Pablito Baibado Jr.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator, and once again, my congratulations to Interfidei. My main concern that I'm bringing to the table is really the issue of minority-majority relations, especially on religious relationship in Southeast Asia and in Asia in general. And I think transcending that is by way of global or Asian cooperation. If we have Indonesia, Philippines, Myanmar, and all these countries coming together at a multi-religious angle, then there will be no more minority-majority. There can only be cooperation. So thank you very much. Interfidei is providing us that landscape, and ACRP is providing that space. So this is an open invitation that we can work together through ACRP. Good evening and good morning, and thank you very much.
Yeah. Terima kasih, thank you. We learn from each other across countries in Asia, in Pacific. And then Dr. Sun Min Kim for your closing statement.
Thank you again for this opportunity, inviting me to present in this webinar. And I think Interfidei's experience of resistance to authoritarian governments with dialogue, interfaith dialogue, will give much inspiration to Koreans, which has rare experience of interfaith collaboration and interfaith dialogue for social contribution. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sun Min Kim. And I give you the chance, Reverend Dr. Yoshinori Shinohara.
Thank you very much, and wonderful discussion, and one very fruitful, this webinar. I really appreciate. I just concerned, and this current situation is the gaps. There are many gaps between any kind of gaps, rich and poor, or center and middle, or young and elder, or male and female. So there are gaps. There are many kind of gaps. So we religious people, we try to deal with how to cope with these gaps. So we try to resolve, overcome this gap. And also, as Reverend Nemoto mentioned, we need to try to make a world no one left to be behind. So inclusive, not exclusive, inclusive society, include everybody. So religious people, we would try to create the world. Thank you very much.
Okay.
No one should left behind. Thank you, sir. And we go to Miss Kuma Ikramullah for closing statement. Are you still here, Miss Huma? No.
Ya, udah.
I can't find her anymore.
Okay.
Mr. Ekraj Imran Sabur.
Thank you very much. It is indeed very inspiring to listen to all words of wisdoms from sisters and brothers, colleagues and friends. And I think it's very important for us to continue this energy, especially in the critical time of crisis. And why encountering, and dealing with the day-to-day challenges induced by COVID-19, I think it's also important for us to not to lose sight of different challenges that we are experiencing within our own country, but also beyond. For instance, especially in Myanmar, where you see that people are struggling for democracy and reform. And we have also seen a shift from the non-violent struggle, armed struggle, and this also requires the collective efforts of people from different parts of the world.
Yeah. Thank you. Terima kasih. And then we will hear from Mr. Kiles Chaturvedi. Mr. Kiles, there is a question from our friends in the chat room. Sister Krisya Laura Pinto. So
yeah,
please,
I saw the question.
her question.
Yes, definitely. So I think my closing observation, reflection would only be, and also as I've heard so many esteemed colleagues speak, is I think the global situation, while there are positives, but there are also this reality of increased polarization across the globe, country after country. There's rising fundamentalism, there's rising divide. We experience that in India more and more, as I shared in my presentation as well. So I think the urgency for the need of counter narrative and a significant counter narrative is very, very important, is what I would say. I think there is hope in what we heard across the board today, but I think we'll have the battle is big, the struggle is big, and I hope we succeed in that. Quickly answering the question that is put to me with regards to the attacks that churches and Christian missionaries have faced in the recent past, I would say, why recent past? It's been now a long while since when the Christian missionaries, as well as other minorities, especially the Muslims in India, are facing extreme amount of heat, extreme amount of, as I shared in my presentation, subject of hate crimes, suspicion, branded as anti-nationals many a times. There are laws that are put against them. So this is, as I said a while ago, a mainstream narrative. The political machinery feeds on that. So it is a difficult situation. What is being done to resolve that? Well, whatever sincere efforts can be made. I think I work very closely with the church in India, Caritas in India, for example, and other religious bodies as well. So they make their own efforts, including some lobbying that they try to do as part of, let's say, the Bishop Conference. They would also try and mobilize Western support sometimes, countries with Christian majorities. However, that doesn't necessarily work with economies like India, where if Western democracies have to collaborate with a country like India for economic gains, then many a times, in spite of the inadequacies in our country, they are glanced over. The serious issues are not made of that, which is where the struggle is right now. So again, I would say the effort is there, but I would say it's barely hanging on. People are hanging on somehow, continuing to work, of course, but it's not an easy situation, is how I would put it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Especially your highlight about counter narrative. That is very, very important that we learn this evening. And then I will go to Miss Christine Fertusi. The time is yours.
Okay, thank you. I just want to thank you all for the opportunity to learn more about Interfidei and to become part of your family. It was a very inspiring evening to listen to all the connections and the relationships that have existed over all of these years. And then I guess concretely, I would hope for greater and closer collaboration with Interfidei and MPI. And hopefully we can actualize that as we state that networking is so important, especially in the Asia Pacific region. So I hope that maybe we can come up with concrete ideas of how we can really work more closely together. So thank you and good evening.
Working closer together. That is what we hope for our future. And then Professor Kamarulzaman bin Iskandar, if you are still here, please.
Yes, thank you. Just want to say again, congratulations to Interfidei for this 30th anniversary celebration. And I know you will continue your good work for many, many more years. And thank you for being religious for peace. And I want to add for working for peace religiously, because this is something that we need to do, religiously and combine, peace and religion together. To continue also your work on promoting dialogue, because dialogue is important. Dialogue is to make we understand each other better, and we also need to remember that dialogue is about listening, because in many situations we hear but we do not listen. So we need to learn and relearn how to listen. And if we listen more, we will understand more. And once we understand more, I think that will lead on to finding commonalities and things that can promote our humanity together. Thank you again very much.
Thank you, Professor. And then Reverend Dr. Nobuhiro Nemoto, please.
Today, I felt genuine passion and compassion of speakers, attendants, and the organizers of Interfidei. I was very happy to be among you. In order for us to first listen to the voice of voiceless, we should go there where they are. And everyone is neighbor. Some neighbors are live far away from us, but doesn't matter the distance. Everyone is family and our neighbors. So we want to work together with you very seriously for the common good of everyone, particularly for the most vulnerable group of people, refugees, migrants, and minorities. So I'm very happy that we share today what the common mission of the people of faith, people of religion. We are people of faith. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor. And The last 1 minute will go to Ibu Elga.
Itu. Okay. Well, again, thank you very much for all of you for all your sharing and encouraging us. I think not only Interfidei, but all friends of Interfidei who are now attending. Yeah, we all here in our Zoom screen, but I think we can bring all what we have heard from each of you, and all this give an optimistic and hope that we can keep going with our spirit, our common action, a concrete common action, and we can go together in peace. Thank you so much. And yeah, next week will be our last webinar with the international friends. You're welcome.
Terima kasih banyak Ibu Elga, and as one of our friends write in the chat room, we need to give big thanks to all the high esteemed speakers tonight, this evening, this morning in other part of the globe. Thank you so much. We learn a lot from you, from your experiences, from your significant works in your institution, in your context across Asia Pacific region. And what we learned tonight, what we learned this evening is that in these 30 years, Interfidei has been so consistent, struggling to create space where religions in Indonesia can come to learn to know each other better and to struggle together for justice, for freedom, for peace in Indonesia. But also that Interfidei has inspired not only good works in Indonesia, but also to become a very important institution that give inspiration also across countries in Asia Pacific setting. So tonight we gather together to say thank you to the Lord that has give inspiration to the founding fathers and mothers of Interfidei 30 years ago, so that now we have this institution and its wonderful works. The presence of 10 speakers, resource person tonight teach us that Interfidei has a lot of friends and is successful in having good networks. So we also thankful this evening that Interfidei has become blessing for Indonesia, but also for the world. We learn from our speakers that that religions may not only work in its small box. Spiritual business is very important, but also that religions need to be involved, linked, having synergy with other elements in society, in national and international level, struggling for justice, peace, and integrity of creation. We also learned tonight that the work of interfaith dialogue should also be linked with democracy, with global agendas like sustainable development goals, in order to have society in national and international setting that live with dignity, inclusive, and to take care of each other. Some resource speakers person tonight this evening remind us how important is the global platform to work together among activists of interfaith dialogue within a country, but also in a region like Asia and Pacific. In Asia and Pacific, we have our commonalities. We can learn from many things that common among us, but we can also learn from the differences that we have. This evening, we learn from Korea, for example, with its very unique experience of secularism, but also that we are having this common challenges of conservatism, of social injustice, the issue of pandemic, the issue of environment. So this evening is very rich. I'm very grateful that I'm here with you. Thank you so much. Some of us remind us once again about the importance of having common commitment to work with the marginalized people, with the minority group in each of our country, but also to voice the voiceless people and to work for justice, to work for integrity of creation. And I myself, I'm so happy that one of our resource person tonight talk about the role of the youth, about the role of young people. And I'm so happy that this evening, when we have about 130 people participating in this talk show, if you look to the hairs, you will see the gray hairs and white one, but also you will have very young people. Some of my students from all over Indonesia are here. And terima kasih Ibu Elga. You are such a wonderful leaders. Terima kasih, because I myself, I can consider myself as student of Ibu Elga. I learned from her. Well, and now I myself, I have also my students. So we have about 3-4 generations this evening, and we inspire each other. We have Ibu Christine from MPI. We have Professor Nomoto from Japan. Many people from all over the world. And these young people, look to them. I have my faith, my optimistic view that, well, the challenge is there, like Professor from Malaysia remind us, but at the same time, thanks God, we have talents, we have resources, we have energy, we have synergy among us. So the young people, the youth, thank you for involving yourself, engaging yourself in this important work, in this important network. And the last thing I want to highlight is about using social media. Our friends from India remind us about the importance of counter-narrative, that when we are facing conservatism, we are facing even radicalism and terrorism, it is important to work in smooth way to develop a significant counter narrative in creative and engaging way. So people want to be with us, struggle together in and for an ecumene an oikos, a word that can be home, to be a house for all of us. I'm so sorry that I'm so tired right now, living now with COVID-19 in my body. Sitting here for 3 hours is just too tired for me, Ibu Elga. So my friends, please remember us in our prayer, me, my husband, and 2 children in this isolated house. And we just heard that one of our pastor here, Pendeta John Taruli, just passed away because of COVID-19. Please remember each other in our prayer, and ingat protokol kesehatan, tetap jaga kesehatan. Tuhan memberkati. I give back the virtual mic to you, Ibu Ina or Ibu Dian. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Mary.
Thank you very much, Reverend Mary, the 11 speakers, and all of us who have participated in the sharing and discussion session. I will just go straight to Reverend Zakaria Yellow as the chairman of the supervisory board of DIAN Institute for the closing remark. Reverend Zakaria, the floor is yours.
Thank you. It's okay to Ibu Mary. I'm happy to see Ibu Mary because of the isoma ya, dengan suami dan 2 anak. Semoga lebih cepat pulih. Saya pakai bahasa Indonesia aja ya supaya tidak lama. Ada terjemahan ya. Kawan-kawan terkasih, selamat malam. Salam hangat saya dari Makassar, Sulawesi Selatan, Indonesia. Terima kasih atas kehadiran Anda semua, khususnya para panelis dan moderator kita, Ibu Mary, yang bersedia berbagi pemikiran dan informasi gerakan Interfaith di berbagai tempat, khususnya Asia Pasifik. Ini suatu kegembiraan untuk bertemu sekalipun secara virtual, sebagai orang-orang yang terpanggil untuk bertukar pikiran sekalipun singkat saja mengenai komitmen kita dalam gerakan Interfaith di negara masing-masing. Semua yang dikemukakan malam ini sungguh memperkaya dan menginspirasi kita semua. Kita merayakan bersama 30 tahun Interfidei, lembaga Interfaith pertama di Indonesia. Sebagai orang beriman, kita percaya lembaga ini dipakai Tuhan untuk mendatangkan kebaikan dalam kehidupan masyarakat modern kita yang serba majemuk. Melalui pengembangan gagasan-gagasan keagamaan yang terbuka, namun kuat berakar dalam tradisi suci masing-masing agama, serta perluasan jaringan kemitraan di dalam dan di luar negeri, Interfidei telah memberi sumbangan bermakna bagi bukan saja gerakan dalam agama, tetapi juga kehidupan masyarakat luas. Saya ingin menyebut bahwa di masa lalu, konflik antar komunitas di Indonesia dihadapi dengan memobilisasi kekuatan tandingan.
Coming from the mobilized community. After the strong encouragement of Interfaith movement, there is a strong commitment to work hand in hand to solve the problem with peace action. So every time there is a problem related to religions, all of the leaders from the religions coming together, sitting together, and then trying to solve the problem peacefully. Nowadays, we are called to trying our best to living in our own religions. We're trying our best to work together to give a good contribution in our community. We hope that our own movement right now will encourage us to really pay attention, not only in a liturgical way, but also in a very concrete ways in our own community. We hope that our religious nowadays really involve and engage and try to solve the social problems around us. In Indonesia, we face corruption, and also there are a lot of poor people here. I was so sad reading some news related to the LGBTQ community. They are passed away because the lack of help from the community and also from the government. And also we have the environment issue. Recently, we are facing a huge human trafficking issue, religion extremism. We are trying our best in our community, but of course, the challenge is still here. We have a lot of challenge nowadays, and even the challenge is more complex. Nowadays, there are a lot of people using religious for their own sake, and really, sometimes what they're doing is really destroying the community. Some of them are using high technology to destroy our community. And also, they can influence a youth community, youth people, to destroy the community. Interfaith movement nowadays facing the problem of COVID-19 pandemic, but we're trying our best to still look for the opportunity to work together, to build the solidarity, to build the humanity, to help each other, to serve each other, not only in our own brother and sister in our same religions, but also with our brother and sister with the different religious belief. Happy birthday, DIAN Interfidei. God bless us with the health and with the energy to work together for a better life. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Reverend Ikramullah, for the closing remark. Brothers and sisters in faith, I believe that we all grateful for the opportunity tonight in this third webinar series. What was shared to us, it's not only just about shared experiences, but also sharing strength, dream, courage, and invitation to work together as a unity, wherever we are, regardless our background, to dream and act together for making the earth a better place and a better life for all creation. So let's also thank you to our 11 resource person, the moderator, also the all participants, and Interfidei. Ibu Elga and team, thank you for making us part of this happiness in the 30th anniversary of Interfidei. And to remember this moment, also to end this third webinar series, I'd like to ask all of you to give the best smile, and Kaida will help us to get a screen picture.
Okay.
I wish we still have the best smile we can
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Please, Kaida.
Yeah. Okay, kindly we open our video. Okay. 1, 2, smile. Okay. Okay, maybe just in the first screen and the okay, second screen. Okay, smile. Thank you. The third screen. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, all dear friends.
Terima kasih.
Ya, Ida akan tutup pertemuan malam hari ini. I will close this session. Billahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Rahayu, salam kebajikan.
Shalom.
Greeting of from Indonesia. Thank you so much for all the speakers.
Bye from Kupang,
Yeah.
Indonesia.